What's up, everyone? January 25th, 2020, 9:52 a.m. It's been about 20 minutes ago. I made a phone call. It's been 10 years almost to the day. Matter of fact, I got either a day to 3 days before I was in, when I remember being drilled in the forehead and all kinds of weird shit happening during a doctor visit. I tried to represent shit. I've had nothing but bad family members, just bad situation all outright. And some of this is my fault, and some of it ain't, because the system didn't help out right. Corruption, all kinds of shit blocking. There is somebody intentionally targeting me. And with that targeting, they have a good amount of power. Authority, they're intelligent, they know how to sabotage, frame up a system, frame and basically sabotage a person, completely ruin their life. The reasons behind that, I've talked many different reasons. There's a stem of different reasons, because you had, say, one main reason why one action started to happen, and then in that action I caused another action which stemmed out to being worse, much less adding other situations. So one stem of action is family problems and me exposing family values and my family attacking me, on top of inter-family relationships, either mafia or whatnot, that I was not a part of, but the family was, and them people getting pissed because they took grief, and then still being allowed within the family, whatnot, or not sent away or anything like that, as far as going to an orphanage or institution or anything. Other things stemming out to where I either snitched something out or I told the police the truth without parents being around, even though that was kind of hard for me, because being crushed all the time, paranoid, if you tell us, the information will be out. And then on top of that, you'll lose your family, you'll do this, someone always pressurizing that situation. It'll make the situation bad for you. And I'm always under the inflammation. If I talk, it'll always make the situation bad for me. Anyways, with all the bullshit, we'll get into the reason why I haven't been able, not even get into it, but why I didn't report. I went to a psychiatric institution. I tried to report it there. They tried to play some psychiatric horse crock shit play role and didn't represent. I would have to take my own lawyer. I'd have to get my own evidence. I'd have to go talk to somebody else, basically, before they utilize it as a kind of like schizophrenic, paranoid, delusional, non-existent situation, because it doesn't exist on paperwork. Not that I was trying to talk to them. Why that kind of topic situation it's strange. No doctor, I mean, you should feel that there's protection. Even if not, somebody would have seen it, witnesses, this, that, those, and the others, especially if it's an operation. It ain't like it's, a little slip of a needle, or, a missed piece of paper written off or something like that. You had some type of surgery. There had to have been other witnesses. And that's what I'm saying. There was also a cop standing in a redheaded cop standing in the room that I was in. I remember his face. I remember the doctor's face. I spun out, but taking pictures, almost like being raped. And more or less is just like being raped, because technically they did some things that I was naked with. So without consent, that's not just sexual assault, no matter what they're doing, but it's basically simulated rape. Anyways, with that being said, I called Mount St. Beth Israel, New York City, New York, off of 1st Street and 16th Avenue. That's the hospital I was transferred to, and I remember the transfers. It's kind of crazy, blacked out drunk, but I can remember everything, or bunch of bits and pieces, and if I put them together, I make the scene out of it, of what happened. Anyways, January 26th or January 28th, I do believe, is the dates. One or the other is the exact date that they performed the situation. That had been roughly from 1 a.m. to maybe 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning, because I was discharged. I was already transferred back to Bellevue Hospital off of 1st Street, but it's more up towards 32nd Street, I do believe. Anyhow, I was transferred back there, and I thought I was in an ICU unit. The fucking unit disappeared. I went back a year later, and the way they had it set up wasn't there. And I asked the devs or whatever, the administrative staff, I was like, where are the ICU units or the little pod units that were here? And they said there was never no pod units here. Not like that. But I was also given some snapped remarks from a bunch of blacks, and there's a bunch of blacks involved with trying to sabotage, set me up, and persecute. just so they can own, right, and control and utilize all this targeting acts. So when they get to play like gang member family, which if you read into gangs, it says it's usually started literally by a family. A family that starts out their own clique, and then they branch it into cliques, or branch it more into organized structures such as Crip and Blood and joining, and they still have the control because that's their neighborhood and whatnot. So that's what I'm saying, pitting this shit together. I've been trying to do this for years and nobody's helped me out. My family gets pissed off if I ask them about information of who owned what. When I recollect, there are certain places that's attached or my family was at, starting out at the base places of where my family is in my memory as a child, and the base places of setting up where connections are. And they get pissed, all of them. They already know what's up. And me being able to solve my life to have a life, now I'm not going to ever have a life. This also goes out to Liberty Street and Short Street, the apartment complex over there, and the person's over there. I'm walking by, they got literally police officers that drive by, they got police, sheriffs, all this. They have to be in law enforcement. If you ain't got a 6-inch dick, then don't be walking by, type of situation. There's a mass amount of sexual oriented shit that is just fucked up. And they know they've already ostracized, so I'm not going to try to get into too much sick shit, but I have a micro penis, and they found this out. What you would kind of say maybe the grapevine, but not really. Just another person that's seen my genitals, and they're in here fucking around with that to a point. And when I mean like to a point, I keep going like to a point. It's hard to explain, but I'm going to go ahead and explain it like this. They're creating basically a falsehood. Or I'm creating the falsehood by being sexually active, but not basically identifying my own body parts as being what is going to be operational with sexual activity if sexual activity is encountered. Meaning that I'm giving off that I have a sexual performance that's a lie. Put it that way. I don't have the size behind the matter itself of what they're trying to say. And it's a falsehood, which turns into wrong. It could turn into wrong consent. It also turns into all kinds of shit they're trying to play with anyhow. That's the way you view it. That's the way we'll do it. Because I don't like you anyhow. You're mentally fucking retarded too and all the rest. And when you figure out that you ain't got a life, you ain't allowed around our people. And they've said all kinds of this shit. And then on top, the mental retardation, being incapacitated. If I was mentally retarded, because they started this shit since childhood, at least. And then also like at least since fucking 2000. All the shit that I talk about, my brother's bedroom apartment, or my apartment and then my brother's apartment, the bedroom situation, and they just recirculate that shit even 20 years later. Everything I said up there, wrote down, tried to do, they analyze my shit and have done nothing but sabotage me with it. Just outright mentally cause profoundness with it. Profound, basically trying to profound retardation. You don't deserve a life, you don't have a right to life. You don't think like other people. While they also utilize another retarded individual named Brandon that comes from Columbus, Ohio, which is the roots of the causes. Not just his situation, but Columbus, Ohio, roots of the causes. And I was told this by law enforcement and multitudes of other states anyhow. The stalking, the gang stalking, and all the stuff, that's what part of this channel is about. Comes from the roots of Ohio, and at which point this mental retard is also associated with other family members of mine, real close. And basically they're making it out, well, hell, you've been rejected from the family, and even though he's not blood, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to run our show. And they've actually utilized this other individual in New York City, challenging me to best equality of life, what we get, all the rest of this shit. You don't know shit. You're completely profoundly mentally retarded, and now Brandon is only mildly retarded. You need to know the difference, and you need to get the fuck away from everybody's shit. Quit utilizing Ohio as your gangland king race or whatever else it is. And all this, I'll explain later. Yes, I was into gangbanging a little bit back in the day, even though it came to find out that I really wasn't into it. It's forced onto me. And then they took advantage of that because they was better off with understanding it, or they was interconnected themselves already as associates, members, partners, whatever it is, and took advantage of me of being unknowledgeable and made me a targeted individual of gangland crime situations, the mafia shit, and all the rest of the shit. But trying to ramble on to the reason of this video, I call Mount St. Israel Beth, and They tell me I'm running maybe kind of short. I told them 10 years ago, and they said they think the statute, not the statute, they didn't say statute of limitations, they think the time frame before they get rid of them is about 10 years. About cutting it short. It might stick, and hopefully it does. Hopefully I can get this shit going. I don't have to go out there physically to walk in to get a computer system running. But to get somehow see how records are done. It costs a shitload of money. And on top, intelligence of getting it. And then what am I going to do with the records that I do get? One of my dilemmas is if I get a record that I need to research further, that's going to take months and months and months of work on, because each time, contact back and forth, faxes, whatever it be, plus money spent, it's a lot. Anyhow, point is I called. There's also a situation. I was doing a video of 4:20 in the morning being electrocuted. Guess what Mount Sinai Beth Israel's phone number is? 212-420-2000. Somebody shitting right in my face, defecating. All of the bad things that started my life in a downward twirl, and matter of fact, obliterated, was in the year 2000. So, I mean, that could be a coincidence reference that they're snobbing at. I can use it because it affects you. Your mindset with all the pain from 2000, I can trigger off of it. 420, smoking weed, was a major situation also. And on top, it's also the hospital number that I was implanted at, and which has caused me complete severe mental retardation, basically severe life problems. I ain't never had a life like they bug me with this life. They harass, target, and all the rest. Well, then don't fuck with us. I moved. You followed me. Remember that. So now fucking with you, all truth comes out. All connections come out. And everything under the sun that I can get to come out comes out. They love prying into these videos. They love getting my information. And they love doing it where it isn't even like we came to YouTube to watch your video. We just electronically eavesdropped, tapped your shit, and took it anyways. Just to make the matters worse. Literally actions from and all the rest of their bullshit. They're playing around with investigative law enforcement, and law enforcement has been caught before in my life with corrupt fucking acts outright. Ass fucking tied into the situation. Even if they ain't making money, they get to socialize with the situation and the cover-ups that happen. Oops, we can't allow this to happen because it's going to cause the situation to be exposed, and then they're going to give him help, and if he gets help, he might actually come back around and realize he needs more help than what he needs and expose everything else that's happened, and somebody's going to get in trouble. But even if not, I'll be able to cut ties with them per se, and it ain't even ties. I didn't tie it, so it ain't even tied into it to stop the interstate stalking and harassment. Right now, they're in the situation of going, okay, we'll do that now. We've already had 20 years of life destroying yours. It's sad. So fucking hardcore devastating. When I say that, there's a memory that comes back. And it comes back occasionally because there's people that kind of, I won't say kind of care. They care, but it's just for ideal representation. I think it's basically stopped anyhow before it causes harm to me and I break down. And I mean, nervous breakdown and everything else. But they came back 5 years later after all the stuff that happened, like in New York City in 2005. And 5 years later, when somebody was making it out, this is fun stuff to do, utilizing social and forced social attach. They're present and trying to make it out. Everything's good for the situation. It might not look so great, but in the future, it'll help me out. Well, 5 years later, they came back and their life was completely set when mine was obliterated. It never helped me out. So they're also basically saying, we're all kind of screwed, fucked, as far as being able to help out. In a sense, we can witness some things and give maybe some identifiers and understandings. And this is understandings. 5 years later, this is what life's supposed to be. And those who is trying to say, oh, we're trying to help you out, 5 years later, my life is nothing compared to those who showed up. And no, everybody doesn't get the same type of life. No, these other people were in agreement and participated with your stupid ass fucking shit. That we get a certain amount of situation or, led into a good path of fucking life without you trying to play, hey, oh, you got gang banged, fucked over, and screwed. There are other people that realized, in a sense, it ain't so severe, but it technically is what happened. In a certain sense, they got fucking sabotaged, fucked over, and screwed in life. The same, not even the same way I did, because of the interactions, me being around, and somebody abusing power itself. Somebody with a mass amount of power that has scientific rights through like FBI, behavioral research and science, just like the Gray Center, and I'm being warned not to go around the Gray Center, or else we'll give everything to your older brother. Another ripoff of power. Hey, we'll not only are you devastated, we'll make you feel more devastated by telling you we'll rip out more power from you and you won't have nothing to enjoy life with. And it's already been done. Much less ostracizing me over sexual life. Hey, you're a pervert. Really, I ain't, I don't think. Even if I went through counseling, because I'd ask a counselor straight ass up with building of what I'm talking and trying to explain everything. Hey, am I basically a pervert? And on top, just because I get jealous on hazing matters, on situations of where it was intentionally set up to emotionally trigger me. It isn't just like I see people in public kissing. They intentionally are utilizing, like, you can't have none, we're doing this. It's an intentional, you ain't shit to us and we're screwing your life up. And to get away from that is one thing one counselor said, but as they understood, I couldn't get away from it. They're intentionally enforcing to where I have no right to sexual activity and trying to enforce basically, I guess, law, which I found out by the mental health department or the institution here. They don't have a right to fucking control any of that shit, but put restraints on the rights of me having sexual activities. And this is mass deep talk. I know it sounds sick, but hey, this is what a targeted individual really goes through. Somebody that screws somebody over to the point they regulate your life to the point of the maximum that they can. Loopholes, and even if it ain't just loopholes, they'll enforce shit that is a falsehood. Just like trying to say we have the right to regulate what you do in your sex life and how you deal with it. And I was told that's not right at all, period. I could call the cops and have them investigate, even though it's kind of hard to explain to the cops. Well, because these guys are goofballing around with me, I feel that they're trying to cut me off from sex life. That wouldn't jive. I'd be fucking, maybe not locked up, but more than likely, analyzed, like, you don't have nothing to report to us when there actually really is a factor behind it. Yes, there is an ability to report. Who to report that to is another thing. Different states, different cities may need different people. But anyhow, all coming down to harm and hurt sexually too. Lifely, not even being able to communicate. Technically, I'm not severe mentally retarded, or else I wouldn't be standing here with a camera. I am, or profound. I take that back. Profound in certain aspects. Severe mental retardation is a possibility, and on top, somebody trying to cause a severe level of intelligence decrease or intelligence abilities, a lower level of my abilities, and trying to utilize this other kid, Brandon, which is associated with Dave Johnson and Gene Rutherford, Columbus, Ohio, right? They live on the same streets I do, Walnut Street and Gift Street. I won't give an address, of course, because that's not right, and even giving names, but hey, they're my family, supposedly, and they're not. They're rapists. I was raped multitudes of times by them. I won't say like hundreds, but there's been 2 different occasions that's occurred that wasn't right. One was under a safety factor controlled situation, and that's where you get family violations. You trust family members and they do you wrong. It was never reported because somebody always makes it out. You consented. You was drunk and consented. Or, hey, you don't know how the law works and it's nothing but a mind mishap. Would you treat somebody to the point of, hey, if you don't know the law, I'm going to take advantage of you? Instead of stopping right there, taking advantage of that person is basically what they've done. And ain't that game, bitch? Ain't that game? Trying to always come off to me all fucked up. This is to Liberty Street and Short Street. If you do get this video, I'm coming after you too. With all truth, hey, I don't know shit. It seems to be that everybody keeps getting upset that I'm trying to put the pieces together. Busting a underground organizational ring, including with mafia, gang, corruption, and criminal crimes ties. All of the above. You want to talk about American shit and utilize me like a terrorist suspect, and I have no dignity and pride to the United States? What's going to happen if all this shit's exposed on your shit? And people don't, even if you're not criminally prosecuted, even if they're, and this is to them, and I'll break off of making the message to them, and without making message at police, blue gang bitches running their mouth, I'll entrap you there too. And that's another thing. Blue gang bitches are corrupt ass police, or police themselves, making it out all police are corrupted and are bastards because they don't run law right. So hey, that's what's happened to me. For the most, 90% of the situations of representation by police has been incorrect, unfair, or just felt that it had no support to it. And again, either against me, had no support, something wrong with it, 90%. The other 10%, some of it was self-supported help that they had to give me help. So it worked out correctly, and I'd say maybe 5% of all the police encounterments and actual situations that I've ever been in has been because they wanted to help. So that's where corruption runs. And I'm also depressed and fucked up by that 5% where they understood in the past it was happening, of the other 90% of shit, which had a shitload more contacts of more other officers, more people, more employees, and them not being able to identify the problem still or trying to help out whatsoever. Kind of messed myself up saying that, but it makes me depressed that I don't have that back, that support that was there for that little bit of time in the past of trying to identify the problems today. If the problems were identified, my life wouldn't be devastated. I wouldn't have to stand here looking like a fucking retard with nothing. Matter of fact, on the brink of losing life completely. It's already lost, but losing it as freedom or anything else. And that's life. Hey, you obey by people. You know what life was? I went out to New York City and they gave me a life of, hey, these motherfuckers don't need to be around again. 15 freaking years later, and they are still showing the fuck up. I was out there for 3 days, and they showed up for a vacation of mine in that 3 days. I don't give a shit. They're utilizing crushing situations, like literally utilizing another retard and crushing me with his life. And hey, you're no different than these other citizens. You're no different than these people, and you need to be controlled just like them. And on top, not only that, the harm and hurt coming from that. Ha, bitch, we fucked your system up just like your family's involved. They have a right to do this, to get rid of you and bring in another family member, or, have a family themselves. And their family is nothing but, hey, we got another retard, and he's different from you, and we're giving him everything in life. We gave him trips. We've given him boat rides, and this is Dave Johnson and Gene Rutherford shit, my own family. And I don't mind putting their name out, because, hey, if you want to talk and they want to talk shit, I'm only doing it for, like they do public probates and all the rest of the bullshit. I'll pit you on spot as hard as you're pitting me on spot. And your connections, including the police, the city works, and all the other fucking spun around shit. Hey, just let's get it on. Let me guess, the retard not to be in a mean way and talking sick shit, he has a big enough dick for you. At which point, it does work, but I didn't need to know that. I didn't need to have somebody in here destroying my life and telling me you're going to regulate it, and I ain't going to get nothing. It's time for me to go ahead and step up to the mafia, corrupted, organized, intelligent. When you get way out of all the shit, because it's tie-ins with all of it, it's nothing but somebody obliterating intelligence. Killing somebody with a mass amount of crushing intelligence, even since I was a child. Now, I do take some wrongs. I went to correct those wrongs, make them right, and our people don't care. So now getting away from them was the option, and that doesn't work either. Well, you still do this. This is your family sign. When you walk around like this, you're expelling your family's name. You don't have a right to it. That's what I've been told. My family doesn't say that straight ass up in my face. They didn't say it at Twin Valley Institution there when it was in a legal matter or combining, as far as, it gets loophole-ish, so I took it as a little bit as a whim as what it is, but not really. You'd think the admittance and how things regulate legally would have to be told. Do I have to get out of the family completely? Or is it I have to get my own life and be self-sustained and supported, but then that just turns right back into why can't I do that, or why wasn't I able to do that due to somebody telling me I don't have the rights to work, my family wouldn't allow it, whatever type of which way that they could get into. All this shit rambling over a situation to call in Mount Sinai, Beth Israel. I don't know how to say it. Sinai, Sinai. Anyways, New York City, New York, 1st Street, 16th Street. And all the information that just came from that. Somebody's also, I want to get this information out there because they're playing with the same thing. You didn't take the chance to check up on things, then you were consenting by allowing it to happen to you. No different than the rapes, no different victim blaming and everything else. That's consent and you accepted. And the rapes come also from the stemming of somebody utilizing the sexual activity. You're not big enough for me. You don't. It's a falsehood for you to be around me, trying to play that you can be sexually active. And I know it sounds fucked up to say it that way. Hopefully nobody takes it in the wrong manner. But being around somebody and having to have, I don't know how to put it. Making sure your genital size, your sexual organ there has the right ability to perform with the person that you may be engaging sexual activity with. But that's crazy. So there you go. Ruined my life. That's good. That's what you wanted. But now I guess I can come back and try to ruin yours. If that's even possible. The situation with that, without making it like an assault situation and underfilling, I wish they had the same thing done to them as they did to me. And like the rapes, like I was saying, here, how about you fill a size, this size, because there's been multitudes of rapes, and how about you fill this? You see how that feels? You see that how that feels? And there's a whole situation of them walking around talking shit just as that. We did it to you. You're in here basically like an antisocial. You're utilizing feminist characteristic and traits by staring at somebody and then representing them later. So hey, those feminist characteristics, how does it feel to have something happen to you and then we enforce feminist characteristics? It was already said they're trying to utilize homosexual, what I call organized crime, and it was said back in by witnesses, homosexual characteristics of a homosexual, basically gang, clique, or group, and trying to push me to being homosexual or force, with the brute force of participating with them homosexually. So, and I'm like, no. And that was even 20 fucking years ago. To this day, there's one of the rape spots that I've had here in Columbus, Ohio, bears a LGBT flag. Has for a couple of years now, I do believe. When there's little insinuations with that. That place is also associated with Liberty Street and Short Street. A whole city internetwork of connections. No different than running the news, no different than running community, but it's worse than community because there would be stop marks from people being able to disgrace or to harass or defame to a point somebody else, causing rumorization rather than community news. But putting that together, trying to concentrate, and they don't want me having a straight life because they know I'll snitch their whole situation out. Even if I come out as what they're saying, and I've been, per se, the family says, yes, okay, we didn't want you part of this family, you have no rights to family values, this, that, everything under the sun. I would still be able to represent, and they would still be criminally persecuted, much less, even if it ain't just criminally persecuted, pit in their face in public, and more than likely, if not, allowed to interstate stalk, me be able to live a life, build a life, and then still probably come back at them because of the unlawfulizations they've done humanly, and still apply unlawfulizations towards their life. Even if, like the anesthesia board and the medical board in New York City, I called in about the situation, went to report it. I made a report of it by phone years and years ago of an illegal operation. And I told them, in a sense, I'm afraid to do this, and that's why I'm saying it's afraid, because it sounds psychotic. But this is what's happened. And even if it was on paperwork, they didn't give me any paperwork to represent it, so I'm walking around messed up without representing, hey, I'm having 10,000 joules of electricity go through my body, or I'm having complications because of it's blank, instead of saying because there's an implant. Even if it's a forced implant, I don't even want to get into that before some people look at me as like, fuck you, dude. You agree with forced implants? And no. But anyhow, I contacted the medical board and the anesthesia board, and they both told me they would not have administered anesthesia. Someone's trying to play I never administered anesthesia. He was drunk enough not to even feel it. So they would not have even operated unless it was life-threatening conditions if I was so severely intoxicated. So that's that. I'm done with their shit. These guys are in here playing. We got the remote to turn this device on and off and have. Making threats that you don't do this or we'll shock you. No different than like a fucking shock collar to a dog. The threats and taunts, that's right, bitch. You're sabotage. We told you we would get you. Utilizing it for their gangland, organized, intelligent, organizational situation as a group, singularly and wholly. That's what you get for trying to come up against us. That's what you get for not acting right as a kid. This is what you get. Well, how can you say this is what I get when I went to reach out for help and you're trying to say you wanted to be supportive? Those who make the mind's thoughts out there. And I know I'm not doing this right, but I'm thinking to myself and out loud of what these people are thinking with me. We would have been supported. Really? Where was the support at? You know what I want to support with? As I've already been criminally fucked up and molested and everything else, and I want to report it. But no, where's the support at now? You want to support me in becoming an understanding of what's going on around me, to participate or not to participate, at least understand, so you have some degree of realization or reality around you. But all of a sudden that ruins your reality when it becomes criminal, or somebody's destroying the background of what you're operating. Even if it isn't gangster, corrupt cop work, illegal shit in the house, outside the house, illegal shit being caught up. What they stood grounds for, and all this everything's okay, wasn't okay. Watch my videos. Watch the rape videos that I talk about, which is signifying that this is targeted, this is a true targeted individual situation. Not only just government, not police, people, everything under the sun. We're talking about implants, people who want to play around with targeted situations of microwaves, everything under the sun. These people are a mass amount of power. I can prove it to you just by showing up wherever you live. It's already been proven elsewhere, and I always throw that out. I went out just like again in New York City, perfectly good strangers. You showed up, they showed up. You showed up, they showed up. This neighborhood wasn't this way 3 weeks ago. And it shouldn't be this way. And what was said in New York City when I was leaving, they only knew I was going to be there for 3 days. And this neighborhood hasn't been messed with. It's been the same way for 3 weeks, per se. 3 months, 3 years. But we'll just say 3 weeks real quick. And it'll be this way 3 weeks from now. Nothing's going to change. What's happening out there is somebody is interfering. They're altering, taking away the reality, the truth of what it is. It's not the truth, because that's not the way the community was when I was there. But I ask anybody, you can invite me out to maybe not your house, but into your community or even your city, and you'll see that I've been stalked. They're masked by a mass power. No matter what legalities they say they try to have and all the rest, because this has happened for many, many years. So the legalities, no matter what, still there's some type of interference. And they always try to blow their situation off as it's all legal. Like I said, in the past, their type of mentality, we just want you to get help. I reached out for help. You knew what kind of help I was reaching out for, and then disowned me for it. Trashed me and then backstabbed me for it. So all of your horse crock of shit fucking lies is seeming to what has been said for the ones that have attacked me, talking out as life-threatening, so I should be able to protect my life against you from threatening me anymore, including having to figure out what the connections are, what places, where you're at, where I'm at, make sure it's safe of distance myself, just like police trying to claim you're a hardcore gangster, so we have the rights because of our safety to have all this information and to run a basic Rolodex or profile, community profile against you. And that's also a fucking lie. They're in here trying to beef the system up with me and make it out that I'm hardcore. And I don't have any ties in almost whatsoever. But they're like, hey, that's the way it works. Exactly. You beefed it up for yourself. You get all these extras And on top, you get to have the enjoyment of group socialism, power control, and everything else, while you get to throw your fits and feel that you're getting your power control freak ways. It was said by a psychiatrist or a psychologist at Twin Valley Mental Health Institute here in Franklin County, Columbus, Ohio. That's what they're doing. It's a power freak control situation, at which point it helps them feel good and provides them their stability of feeling good by fucking with you or doing the wrong things that they're doing, gaining the power. It's much more than that, but that's the first step in realizing how to label, how to deal with, and what they are. The hard thing is like the doctor said, usually in a power controlled freak situation, it's usually family matters and a domestic violent partner, somebody that doesn't have an extremity of authority, like a police officer. But now we're getting way out. They understood it's not, like a police officer. There's a mass amount of shit going on. Only I can take care of that. Anyhow, in this video, it's been lengthy of just rambling on. What a nasty day, but what a great day. I'm 1 day shy of being either 10 years or I'm 3 days shy of being 10 years with an implant in my head. And all the support I retched out. Nobody did nothing. So a bunch of lying, conniving ass, horse crock of fake ass shit, at which point is life threatening. As I already talked with the psychiatrist, the things that have been done to him, those are still considered life-threatening. Even if you ain't telling him you're putting a gun to his fucking head, you're doing so much social involvement that it's destroying his life that he needs to protect himself and should protect himself, no matter by what means. I'm ending the video on partially that note, but before I do that, they try to play back. Well, that's the same thing we're telling you. You don't go tell on the things that's happened to you from us. And we're saving our own lives by doing that. You see how it's commonly related? At least your retardation didn't block that commonality of denomination or common sense between the both of you don't tell on us or else, but we're also not giving you any help and beating you up. So, stupid. Anyhow, peace. I'm off here.